Hello, everybody. This is Eric Schellenberger with the Restaurant and Bar Marketing Podcast from Los Angeles. Thank you again for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about a lesson from my first book called The Fishbowl versus the Ocean. This is basically a way of saying that in certain economies, social media and all the databases you have, all the people you have in your fishbowls are irrelevant in a lot of cases, and the ocean consists of all consumers. So here's how this kind of breaks down. So this is one of my first chapters in the very first book that came out in about 18. So some of this stuff is a little bit dated. For the most part, though, it is still pretty spot on. So it seems to me and still this is going on, that most restaurant and bar owners will rely on social media when it comes to marketing. If you say, it's still the case that the word marketing and social media is synonymous. So there's a lot of restaurants that their entire marketing budget will go into social media. And this doesn't make any sense for me, especially when before I owned Bar Marketing Basics, I was the corporate marketing director for a couple of big places in Scottsdale, Arizona that ran nightclubs, restaurants, bars. And we would do almost exclusively social media, but we admittedly overdid it. There was a lot of stuff that we posted out there. It was a little spammy. It was a little overwhelming, and people definitely started tuning out after a while. But the only thing that our head was in was that social media kind of a category. So that's all we did. And don't get me wrong, we did ads on TV screens. We did table tents. We did other stuff like that. But the majority of it was based on making a social media post or push or graphic or event. And then we would duplicate that across our TV screens and in-house posters, all that stuff. What I did, and I noticed that this really wasn't bringing customers in the door. This really wasn't driving traffic like they thought it would. I would go to some of these events just to see who showed up and just to see, ask around, hey, how'd you hear about us? I'd talk to our bartenders and I'd say, hey, how do these people hear about us? Are they mostly regulars? And they would say, no, these are the people that are in here anyway. There's really no new faces. And these are the same old people that come on a Thursday. These are all regulars of ours. These are all people who know the promoters around town. Or it was very rarely did they say, yeah, we saw this on Facebook or Instagram. This is before TikTok. But here we are shoveling just a ridiculous amount of money down the social media hole. And so I kind of came up with the idea of polling the public. So we had a couple of focus groups, and I did this on my own. I was independently of my job. My bosses knew about it, but I said, hey, by the way, I'm going to poll the public and ask them. They said, great, do it on your own time. Go ahead. This didn't seem worthy enough to spend salary money on, which is a little insane to me. But anyway, so I polled the public on my own. I paid for Facebook ads. I paid for Instagram ads, and I got a bunch of traffic to my questions, which are basically, how do you decide which restaurant or bar to go into type of questions. And then I reworded them over and over and over. And then I put the numbers together, and I'll get into the numbers for a second. But here's where, based on those answers, my concept of the fishbowl versus the ocean kind of grew out of that. And so the way I explain it in my book is the fishbowl is all of your databases, your followers, so your social media followers, your email lists, everything you have like in a POS with an email list or an opt-in newsletter type of thing. With the opt-in rates and those are dismal, but they still exist. Any sort of people that have been in your building before and you captured their email. Maybe it was on an Adentro router, or Adentro is a marketing router that collects email addresses. All that stuff really means that's in your fishbowl. These are people that are well aware you exist. They've been in the door before. You've got them as a customer. We're just trying to get that person back in. So, and yes, it's a lot cheaper to get somebody back in than it is to get them in for the first time. That's for sure. So we would spend 100% of our time and energy on getting that person back in the door with no regard to getting people in for the first time. So conversely to this, all consumers, everybody, you, me, everyone on the planet is in the ocean as opposed to the fishbowl. The ocean is everybody. And so these people use basically three online tools, Google, Yelp, and TripAdvisor. That's kind of the three big ones. It still is. And this was back in 18 and still pretty much the case. There's not a big directory that's come along and taken major traffic around away from those three. It's going to be AI, and AI is going to kind of dominate real soon, and it's going to dominate all three of those by a long shot. We'll get into that. That's going to be a different podcast. But so we basically didn't care about our Google ranking, and it didn't even occur to my bosses like, hey, maybe we should be at the top of the Google results for all this stuff. But since they didn't know how to do it, and none of their salaried employees know how to do it, it was like, screw it. Which for me was a little weird of an attitude to have when we can kind of see that all the undecided people are there. Why don't we go and meet those undecided people on that platform? And we're one of the first people that pops up, but for whatever reason, it wasn't a priority. So that's why I started going out on my own. I created bar marketing basics to appeal to people in the ocean. So everything I do is to appeal to the audience who probably hasn't heard of you before. And tourist economies, this is the most important thing. So in a tourist economy, if you've got almost all tourists, if you're in the middle of Vegas, why would you have a social media page? Why would you have a Facebook page? Nobody knows it's there. Nobody sees it. Nobody cares. It doesn't drive traffic. It's really not anything that somebody would be in Vegas and they just decide how in the hell they would ever find you in the first place. I don't know. Say they find an ad and they see you and they like your page. Then they leave Vegas and they see your ads for things that they're not even in town for. They couldn't possibly take advantage of it if they wanted to. It just doesn't make any sense. So in tourist communities, if you're in, Vegas, San Diego, Boardwalk, any of those places that have a really small population of the people that are there are locals, they use a completely different set of rules than tourists do. So tourists, when we go back to the three tools, Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor, you want to optimize yourself and be at the top of all those lists. So like the old restaurants near me search, of course you want to be at the top of those results. It only makes sense. If you're in a small town somewhere, everybody knows everybody, tourists never go there. Why would you bother about Google? Google was totally irrelevant. I would say it's probably no marketing is going to work in a situation like that. It's going to be almost 100% word of mouth. So those people are kind of immune to marketing is what I call it. So when I put these polls together, one of the questions I asked that it's in my first book, and it's an interesting question. And this was done over the course of about 2015 to 2018 is when I asked these questions. And keep in mind, this question was reworded several times and asked several different ways, and I got similar results. So I kind of compounded those numbers together. And here's what I came up with. This is one of the big shifts in my thinking and going. I was always suspect about social media not working, but now that I got this, I was like, okay, now there's my proof. The question is, how influential are a bar or restaurant's social media posts to the frequency of your visits? And here's what they said. 26% see the posts, but they don't pay much attention. 22% do not make dining or drinking decisions based on social media posts at all. 15% report social media posts have zero effect on their visits. 12% don't even follow their favorite places on social media. 9% only pay attention to special events advertised on social media. 2% answered other. Let's just assume this is a yes if they use social to find restaurants. The percentage of people who make decisions about where to go exclusively based on social media posts is 14%. So to sum this up, about 84% of responders say that social media more or less does not affect their visits one way or another. So if we're a restaurant putting 100% of our budget into something that we hope to get 14% as a max number back from the public, that's a little crazy. Now think about this one step further. This was 2015 to 2018 when people use social media to find restaurants way more than they do now. In 2024, that number has plummeted. And not only have the people kind of abandoned social media to find a restaurant, but they've really abandoned looking at our own personal accounts. Now, here's where my thinking and my opinion has evolved and changed over the years. In 2018, I said social media is terrible. Don't waste your money. Don't even bother with it. You're never going to get any positive ROI. Now, I say I love it if it's the right page. So if it's an influencer's page, if it's something that has a lot of eyeballs, somebody that has a whole bunch of followers in your area. So I still have the same attitude about our own social media pages. Like your restaurants, your bar's Facebook page, your restaurant and bar's Instagram, TikTok, whatever, pretty useless. You can't deposit likes and shares. So when it comes to depositing money, you can only get that from people who walk in the door. And if you have the greatest viral video in the world, yet everybody sees it around the country, and you're in a small town in Ohio, and there's 0.0001% of the people that see it even live there and are potential customers, who cares? You're viral with zero return. If you are in a big city, if you are in a spot where people are going to come, especially the tourist economy, or if you're a big city like LA, then if you have an influencer that does a really clever post about your place that goes viral-ish even, it's going to equate to people walking in the door. I love them. I think they're very successful. The caveat is they're a spike and they drop off real quick. So it's successful for a very, very short window. Which, I mean, there are ancillary benefits if you get people in there for the first time through this influencer that never would have been in the door before. Now they're a regular. Great. That's definitely going to help. If people start talking about this influencer's post and that gets other people to watch it or other people just to walk the door because when they want to know what the hype's about, even better. So there are different benefits to that. But the overall long-term benefit really doesn't exist. So if you have the opportunity, like we do here in LA, to get a whole bunch of influencers and line them up and do a back-to-back pushes, promotions, whatever you want to call it, and have them post on our behalf, then yeah, it brings traffic. But at what expense? A lot of these people around here are very, very expensive. It depends on, you'll have to do the math to figure out how much you can spend to have a positive ROI and how long that's going to last. Anyway, I still wouldn't put all your eggs in that social basket. And it's evolved from when we used to do posts back in the day. It was a static post. It was a flyer with a, hey, come check out this DJ performing on Friday night. And that actually got a little bit of traction back then. Now that's not going to move the needle at all. So that's kind of evolved into video. It kind of evolved into other people doing a pretty good job of it. And so let's fast forward to now. So my fourth book in the restaurant and bar marketing series, titled If I Could Give It 0 Stars, I Would, I interviewed Sean Walchef with Cali Barbecue. And you've probably heard of him. He has a podcast. He has a big following. Sean's got a really, really big media company, and everybody knows the guy. He's really, really good at what he does. So Sean's the one exception of social media that absolutely works. So what he does is he changes it from, I'm going to post a picture of our burger and say happy hours from 3 to 7 and hope people walk in the door, to he has an entire film crew stop in. They do a documentary style kind of showing potential customers the place, telling the story. It's all about, here's the story of our restaurant. Here's how we grew up. Here's how we came up. Here's us at a charity event. Here's the back. Here's the exposed kitchen. Here's how we make our. In his case, in barbecue, it's a pretty good advantage because you can go to the smoker. You can see the meat in there. You can see how they prepare it, how long it takes, how much love they have to put into that to get it perfect. So things that are very visual like that, or like sushi restaurants, something like that, you can get a really, really good visual out of it. And so he's very much one step further in. It's just like having a documentary film. They do the whole walkthrough, the whole thing. They tell the story. They do different episodes. They chop these episodes up and put them on in different areas across social media. And they're in appropriate spots. You know, you've got the reels are different than the posts, which are different than video, which are different than static images and all that stuff. So they optimize the right style of or format of post for the right department. Anyway, so when you tell a story as in-depth as he does, it works really well. And it is, he teaches his staff how to do this because he's very good. He's very expensive. So you can't pay him forever. That's why he trains his staff how to do it. So when he's gone, you guys can pick it up and run with it and continue to tell that story and do it the way that he teaches, to where it retains its effectiveness for years to come. But it's something that you have to keep up on. It's a full-time job. You have to keep telling that story, keep evolving, and don't let it get static. Content, I'm out of the content business 100%. That's why I hit up Sean for that chapter. because I call him the social media Yoda. He's very, very good at that. I'm not. And so I'm more, the things that I do, the techniques I teach in the ocean are basically all based on analytics and math. The Fishbowl is based on opinion. So it's an opinion of how good your it's content. Outside of the Fishbowl, in the ocean's not that much content. It's how you rank. It's how you show up on all these type of searches. Yes, it is photos. It is completely photos of your place, and people have got to get a sense of what it looks like, sure. But more or less, the content resides in the Fishbowl, and that's where opinion comes in. So if you want to mess around in the opinion business, you got to be good at it. So everybody's opinion is going to be a favorable one. That's the lesson for today. I appreciate everybody for hanging in there. Anything else you want to know about me, hit me up, Eric, ERIK, at Bar Marketing Basics, or hit up Sean Walchef at Cali Barbecue. I think his handle is at Sean P. Walchef. I hope I got that right. Anyway, thanks, guys. See you later.